For those of you who have been to JPR meetings, you know that when I'm asked about opening remarks, I normally have none. But today, I've got some fairly extensive opening remarks because I think we need to set the stage of why we're here. We must protect children. That is a core rationale behind the laws and procedures that we'll be discussing. But must we violate or skirt the Bill of Rights or the principles behind it to do so? The answer to that question should be obvious, since the Bill of Rights is part of the U.S. Constitution, is the highest law of the land. So unless we pass a constitutional amendment that says protecting children trumps all the rest of our rights, we must do our utmost to protect children while being sure our God-given rights are protected in the process. The laws and procedures that accompany child abuse, maltreatment, and neglect in Arkansas are very complicated, and often state employees working in the system don't even understand them, much less the parents who find themselves the subject of an investigation. This is not because I say so. I've been told this repeatedly by state employees at all levels working for these same agencies. So at the very least, before we have any hearings, we know we have violated the KISS rule, keep it simple, stupid. And that is where we started out in July to unfold the maze of agencies and procedures for our members, many of who are calling me with questions about cases in their own districts because the events of the last few months have caused me to have to learn more about how the system works. It is our plan to continue that educational review. But today we have the opportunity to hear from families who believe that they have been negatively and wrongly affected by the system. I believe it is worth our time to hear their stories. As we hear them and ask questions about procedures and laws of our state agencies, I want to consider at least three questions. Are there problems with the way the state of Arkansas handles child abuse, negligence, and maltreatment cases? Are there problems with the laws, privacy, and otherwise that surround these cases? They are supposed to protect families, parents, and children. Do they not sometimes instead protect government agencies, and do they not sometimes hurt families, parents, and children? Are we skirting, number three, are we skirting constitutional protections by substituting true findings for finding folks guilty? And so the state proving a case, it becomes the defendant's obligation to prove they're not guilty. At least in a criminal case, the state has to provide an attorney if you cannot afford one, but not in a child maltreatment case. Let me provide background as to how we got here today and why I think these questions need to be asked. In doing so, I will reveal information candidly that I have not revealed thus far. I've steadfastly obeyed the laws on these cases that say I can find out almost anything about the cases but cannot reveal it to others, only staff and fellow legislators. I will obey those laws today, but much of the information on the investigations I could not previously talk about has been given to me by families such as the Stanleys. Since I have now obtained it from a source other than the state agencies, and it has been made public, I can talk about those reports at least as much as it is in the public domain. I am not taking the side of any of the folks who are testifying today. We will swear them in, you listen to them, you question them, you decide if they are credible, and if their situations present problems that need to be addressed. The first week of session, I received a call from a constituent about 7 children that had been removed from a home in my district. The caller and several subsequent callers told me that they knew these people personally, visited in their home, and that this family visited in theirs. They were personal friends. They were outraged and convinced that this family, Hal and Michelle Stanley, had been grievously wronged and were not in any way child abusers and certainly should not have had their kids removed. I took this all with a grain of salt. There are two sides to every story, and I have no doubt that most of the time when the agencies take children, it is justified. I expected that's what I would find. I also know people can fool you, but I called DCFS to see what I could find out. I was new to this. I was told that as a state senator, they could tell me almost anything. I just couldn't reveal it to anyone else. I was told that there were some serious allegations that had been made against the Stanleys. They told me what those allegations were, and they were indeed serious. Obviously, the agencies thought there were merit to the allegations. They would not have only taken the children, but gone to court to keep the children out of the home past the 72-hour hold. Number of points came along the line that took me in directions I didn't expect. The first was a few weeks later. I waited a week or two, expecting to hear something. The children are still out of the home, still getting calls. and there was a gag order from the judge. Or was there a gag order from the judge? I'm still not sure. Because they couldn't talk to me for a couple of weeks. And because of this gag order, and I said, you know, that even if there is a gag order, that doesn't make any sense that you can't talk to me. Because I'm already under a gag order. The way I understand it, the law, you can tell me anything, and I can't repeat it. So I called the judge. And the judge said that he basically would have understood it the same way and said that he would make a phone call. Circuit judges are busy. I thought he would probably get busy and not do that. But I was patient. After I had talked, I called him again and told him what the judge had said. A couple of more weeks went by. I don't hear anything. I'm not one to yell and scream, as some of you may know. It may seem like I'm yelling and screaming sometimes when I'm serious, but so the next thing I did after waiting patiently for another few weeks, I helped DH's budget and the budget committee. And they tried to find out why. I thought they should know why. But we finally got to the reason that I'd held their budget, and then with the help of Senator Tigg and Senator Hickey and the whole state legislature, actually, we got together and they apologized to me from the highest levels and said, you are correct. We should have been talking to you the whole time. Well, I'm glad we got that straight. I don't think I should have held the budget. There's 135 of us that the law is very clear, and if we want to know something about a case, we shouldn't take such drastic actions to get answers. They didn't seem to understand that law very clear, but you're going to find out today that also they're going to bring up a law that says that they cannot testify about a specific case. The interesting thing to that is either one line above or one line below that they have to speak to you and me as legislators and have to tell us everything. It's interesting that they can read that one line so clearly and not the other line. I want y'all to keep that in mind. But anyway, after holding their budget, we got that squared away, and they have been, I have to be candid, they have been very forthcoming and tried to help me. I don't think folks volunteer information. I'll tell you as legislators, if you don't know what questions to ask, you probably won't get the answers. But if you can figure out what questions to ask, you can learn a lot. So finally, after several weeks, the kids still out of the house, I'm still getting phone calls, I received the 70-page investigative report on the Stanley family. Now, I did not know until recently that there are videos of the investigation that I was never made aware of, that this is actually a synopsis. I don't know how many times, and I think if I asked them, they would verify this, I told both agencies I wanted everything. And I still don't have everything. But as I was looking through the investigation, I started at the front and read the whole thing and then reread it. And I didn't know what a true finding was. I didn't know that they had basically Stanley family had already been found guilty. I didn't understand that. But one of the things was burning. They had been accused of burning a child, and that's now in the public domain. And there was a true finding that they had burned their child. And so I didn't just read page by page. I went looking for where they burned their child because I thought these people are horrible. You know, I thought of somebody burning their kid with a cigarette or putting their hand on a hot stove or pouring scalding water on them. Could not imagine, you know, and in which case, you know, I could bail from this thing and go do something else because these people are guilty. And surely if the state agencies think they're guilty, they are. But I get back and I find out that that a child has got some kind of growth, I don't know if it's a mole, a wart, or whatever, and that they had taken a medical supplement that you could buy at Walgreens and applied it to that, and it had caused a chemical burn. Parents were horrified at that. Now we didn't have actual proof of that, because that happened months before. There's no pictures. If the Stanleys had not stipulated to the fact that it happened, and I was horrified. So they found a true finding for that. I mean, because if you're put on the child maltreatment list, which is what happens after a true finding, if you're an RN, if you're a teacher, if you're a child care worker, but I got news for you. You know, I'm a small company, but a big company, does a lot of background checks these days. And I gotta tell you, if I did a background check, and one of the things that we checked was that, and that'd be one of the things we would check, and I found out you burned your child, unless I was looking for a very aggressive bill collector, I wouldn't be hiring you. So that's, that alarmed me. The next thing that I questioned was educational neglect, because I read all 72 pages twice and I found nothing about educational neglect. So I went back to the folks involved and said, where is that? We'll get it for you. Well, several weeks later, I got another packet. It took me 2 or 3 days during the session to have time to read it. I opened it up, and I thought I had another similar packet on educational neglect. I didn't. I had the same 70 pages again, and 3 more pages. And those 3 pages were facts from either CACD or DCFS to probably CACD to the Lake Hamilton school superintendent asking if the children were registered for homeschool. They got a fax back from the superintendent, and there was a cover sheet. And I said, are you kidding me? This is the educational neglect. I said, no, I think they should follow the law and register their kids for homeschool, but you're finding them guilty of educational neglect. You're going to put them on maltreatment register for that? I said, and I was told at the highest levels that the Stanley children were as much as 3 years behind age and grade level. Now, the person who told me that was not lying. They believed it. They had been told that by someone else. They had been misinformed. Again, I believed them. Me being me, I wanted to see it. So I said, I want to see the testing that says that. Another couple of weeks later, I assume that testing has been done sometime before, but another couple of weeks later, we get that testing. And I look at it, and I read the full report and everything, and every child, one was high, one was low, but they all were within the normal range for age and grade level. So I begin to say, show me. Again, I had come in, going to take the state side of anything. And I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. Another true finding was poisoning, not proven by their own protocol. I begged them repeatedly, individually and in meetings that I called to prove their case to me that I wanted to be on their side. They know I'm telling you the truth. Either they didn't have the proof, or even worse, they didn't think that I as a legislator mattered and they didn't provide me the truth. Had to be one or the other. They kept saying that if I knew all the facts, I would agree with them. And I kept saying, I thought I had all the facts. But because of that, and for fear of being wrong, I kept investigating further. I found out, I talked to accusers, I talked to the family. I began to talk to employees within the agencies. And the more I talked to them, the more I found that they disagreed with the findings. So, I'm not going to tell you today that the Stanleys are not child abusers. I'm going to tell you that this system horrifies me. Because one person, they say 2, but even if it's 2 people, can make a true finding. There are 63, I believe at our committee meeting in July, they told me there are 63 investigators for the CACD. I checked with Cecile Blooper today, there's 98 full-time, she told me, on DCFS, and another 34 part-time. Just statistically, there's anywhere from 10 to 25% of those people that are wonderful. That if you were ever investigated, they'd be the people you would want. I can assure you there's at least one, if not another 5%, that you would not want. And once they make that true finding, again, they don't like me to use the word guilty, but that's what you are. And then it's on you. Either your name stays on a child maltreatment register or you have to have it removed. So again, this was something that I did not intend, that I didn't know about, didn't intend to look at, and we will give them a chance to defend. They can't talk about specific cases, although I may challenge that, but they We will ask them, in fact, I don't even want them to defend the system. I want them to tell us there are problems with the system, so that you will hear that, and so that we can sit back and say, okay, now that we know there are problems, what are they and how do we fix them? So that people are not, innocent people and innocent children are not horrifically affected by a bad decision with little oversight. And the other problem is because of these privacy laws, oversight is supposed to be from children and youth committee, which I'm on. But they cannot testify to us about a particular case. How do you have oversight? How do you, even if the parents, which these will do today, waive their rights, and the law says that the reason for this law is to protect the children and the parents. If they waive their rights and the case is over and done, who are we protecting at that point? I don't think it's the families. And so we might have meant well when we passed those laws, but if we're going to have oversight, because if you're going to have anything go wrong, it's going to be where it's dark, not where it's light. So thank you for your patience with the opening remarks.